We finally managed to get Avengers working on Steam Deck. Well, I say we, thanks to glorious Eggroll Proton 716, this is now playable. Under any of the other Protons, it just crashes out when loading a game, if you can get into the game at all. It's worth noting it did crash the first launch, but beyond the first launch, it does load into the games just fine, and I managed to play quite a few rounds without major issues. There is a couple of things to note though. The controls don't show correctly in the menus, so you do have to guess or at least remember the layout from other services so that you can use the controls that you need to. Also, you will notice at the start there the frame rate was absolutely all over the place. The frame time and settings on this do need a fair amount of tweaking, and because it's not super stable is why it's still marked as unsupported, and also until that Proton 716 makes it onto the mainstream Steam. So you would have seen that it does flatline on 30 frames per second, and we'll show just how we've achieved this in just a second. But it is actually very playable at 30 frames per second, but make sure that you have fidelity super scaling turned off because it looks absolutely awful. You may be able to push slightly higher frame rate on low, but I do find that the medium settings here is blurry enough, and you do lose a fair amount of the character quality on medium. So it's a shame we can't push high settings here, but it is playable on medium. And you'll see as we come into the menu what I mean about those buttons. So you can see that we've got that dynamic super scaling off at 1280 by 800 resolution. Motion blur is off. The preset of medium settings in game here. There is no in-game FPS cap, which is one of the issues here, but we have capped it in the Steam settings to 30 frames per second. Now this does add a little bit of frame time, but as you'll see, it's not bouncing all over the place now. So having a little bit of extra lag on that frame time between 25 up to 33 milliseconds is well worth it here to get a solid and stable 30 frames per second. This makes the game much more enjoyable, and if you do have the beta, setting the screen refresh rate to 40 and having VSync on should give an even more stable frame rate and also bring that frame time down just a bit more as well. This is why a lot of people have been waiting for the 40 Hz update, because the VSync on with refresh rate is much better for the frame time and latency overall than having the frame cap on Steam. I'll leave you with a bit more of the gameplay here so you can get a feel for the combat and performance without me talking. Let us know in the comments below if there is a game that you are on the lookout for, and if it's in our library, we'll take a look. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of the video.